Let's start with what just happened. You were in Chicago. It was really fun to see you sing the seventh inning stretch, talk to Marquee Network, Taylor McGregor as well. And one of the notes that I picked up from that was that you had a job at Wrigley and you did what any red-blooded sports fan would do. I understand that you tried to watch some batting practice and that's where things went south.
Yeah. I mean, it was the most natural, organic thing in the world, you know? You get there early, it's a day game, come out of the, center field holding pen or whatever, and, you're behind third base today or something, and walking behind, that aisle they had, up behind left field, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's batting practice. There's no one here. The whole of the bleachers is here for me to sit and enjoy. So I sat down, watched some batting practice. I think I might have even picked up a ball. And they're like, wow, that was really fun. Wow. And then I walk along, get to my post, and my manager, whoever comes running out, you cannot watch batting practice. I had committed some horrible, horrible crime. And, that was the beginning of the end. But I actually remember the exact moment I decided I had to quit, which was I'm serving hot dogs at my stand, and a guy who I had lived with in college for the first 2 weeks of college at Illinois State, in some misbegotten, overcrowded, there's been a bureaucratic mistake, 6 people in one room situation for 2 weeks. And he buys a hot dog from me, and he's like, oh, my God, Brendan Hunt, wow. And when he leaves, he meant no harm. But when he leaves, he goes, I can't believe I just bought a hot dog from a guy I lived with in college. Yeah, I think I gotta get out of here.
Little did you know it would be foreshadowing for other things later.
Yeah, it all worked out.
When it comes to Ted Lasso, I don't quite know where to begin because we all know how successful the show has been. And to me, it hasn't just been something people needed at this time during the pandemic, just something to feel good about, but also what it does for just having groups of guys talking to, catching up at the office. I love the idea of the Diamond Dogs. I love the idea of just this show making people enjoy something in a very pure sense. You are one of the creators of this, and I know it has a very interesting beginning as well. But the meaning that it has taken on for people, I think, has been something that is really good too. What is your favorite part, perhaps, about the bigger meaning of this show? Just giving somebody an escape, giving them a platform to talk about things in a way that I think has been really well received. And then also just the idea of being supportive in sports and being a teammate in general.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's almost hard to say because, we didn't anticipate this kind of reaction, we just wanted to do, our bits and hope that people would like it. And the fact that now it's become this thing that, people hopefully still find funny, but then also mean stuff to them. That's this little ecosystem that, has taken a life of its own. And we just kind of sit back and watch, it's like, what's the experiment in freshman year chemistry where you leave a piece of grass in a jar of water and then you seal off the jar of water and then you have to come back 2 weeks later and tell the teacher what it smells like. That's kind of what this is, except it smells amazing, as opposed to that algae I had growing in my closet for Mrs. Havlick at Cameron Academy for so long there. It's so great, and particularly that it's filtering down to kids, and we're getting kids to sort of, we're getting kids to tap the believe sign, in the world they currently live in the way they're going to school right now. They're getting that from their teachers who are bringing these believe signs in, and oof, that's just a cool thing, a cool pebble to push down the mountain and watch become, something much cooler.
What you're trying to do on this show is not easy from a creative perspective. And that is to be funny and to be nice, which is sometimes diametrically opposed, because a lot of times the best comedy is inherently not nice. And then to know where the line is between warmth and schmaltz. And that is a really delicate, creative place to be. And you have to, I really think, respect other people in the writer's room and know when you say a line as an actor, if it works the way it did on paper. But how can you be all those things? How can you be funny and nice and not start crossing into schmaltz?
Thanks. It is a bunch of close calls as we try not to veer too far. I mean, you mentioned the writers' room. We do have a great writers' room, and everyone gets the conch. I mean, Jason's energy is what rules everything, and Jason comes from sketch and improv, and in sketch and improv, you take the first idea, you don't judge it, you attack it.
Yes, and right.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and so it's a room full of yes anding, and I'm reading Mike Nichols' biography right now, and Mike Nichols early on in his showbiz days had which is again from Jason. We have a no turkeys policy, just no turkeys, and it starts in the writers' room. And I guess I'm kind of realizing now, like once you have a no turkeys policy in the writers' room, then you just kind of start writing characters where you assume that they're not turkeys either. Some of them might be having some long fits of turkey-ish behavior, particularly your Jamie Tart in season 1, but there's something else going on there. And I think that's kind of a Midwestern thing, like you don't assume anybody is an actual horrible person. You kind of assume they're just having a bad moment, and they'll figure it out later, and maybe we can help them figure it out along the way.
That's interesting because it reminds me in that particular thought process of Judd Apatow and an antagonist not being a true antagonist, where the conflicts in a story and the antagonism that drives the story doesn't necessarily come from white hats and black hats. It comes from real and internal places and difficulties. And that can be hard to write because it does have to be very real and it has to be acted with a great deal of nuance. But I think that's sort of an aspirational thing to not necessarily have to designate heroes and villains.
Well, I think you can do white hats and black hats a lot more easily when it's 90 minutes. But, we're making one season at a time. We're doing a series of 300-minute sports movies. And you got to go a little deeper than that, and we knew that with the main character first. We made them deeper than the commercials were, which we couldn't have gotten away with for 300 minutes. But then it's the same with everybody else. It can't just be this person sucks. It has to be, why does that person suck? And let's take a long walk down that path and figure out why. And again, still try to, have the occasional fart joke or whatever to lighten the mood when appropriate.
We love those in our space, too, just saying. I also am fascinated by the idea of how Ted Lasso came to be, that the original skit is Jason Sudeikis as an American coach in London, and it's the NBC Sports Premier League broadcast where this first came to be. You talk about doing the bits. How did you end up putting this all together, starting with that?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly was never the idea to do anything further than what it was, which was, we got hired to go to London for 3 days to shoot this thing at Tottenham Hotspur's training academy, training center rather, and it was really slapdash and fun. It was me, Jason Sudeikis, and Joe Kelly. We're like the three sort of first creators, and like we didn't even have a script. We had scenarios, and we sat in our trailer and like waited for setups, and we'd go out and do the next bit. And this whole English crew outside, like a top quality bunch of professionals who are not used to working with improvisers, are outside our trailer where we're just playing Catan, minding our own business, and they're all like biting their nails off, like, "What are we doing next?" Oh, sorry, what are we doing next? It was more close. And yeah, we didn't think it was going to be anything more than those 3 days. So we had a blast. It was very low pressure. Jason's hilarious. The outtakes are hours long of stuff that didn't even make it, that Jason just killed in. And yeah, now 8 years later, we're still talking about it, and it's insane to me. I'm delighted.
Well, and I really enjoyed the second season, too. I am fully caught up, so I'm pretty proud of myself for that. And I like to see Coach Beard's character arc start to get really developed here. And I've enjoyed the relationship piece of this on his part so far. I'm looking forward to seeing where that is going. And then also trying to figure out what Coach Beard's first name is.
Everybody wants to know, including me.
Oh, come on. You have to know what his first name is.
No, I don't. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he has one. I don't know if that's his actual last name. or just his role in Ted's life. We have options, but we haven't decided. So we'll decide if we have to, or we never will. Seinfeld was on for 9 years, and around year 8, they decided to reveal Kramer's first name, and it was cool to know his first name, but I don't know that it made us enjoy Kramer more.
It is a fun bit, though, because that was asked by Mike Mulligan, our morning show host. He's a huge fan of the show as well. He said, "Oh, you have to ask him his first name," and I'm like, "I'm going to try." We're still asking.
Well, I also, back to the writer's room policy of no turkeys. Immediately, I'm thinking, where have I heard that before? And it's Bears coach Matt Nagy, who, when he took the job, he called it no turds. And it's not real easy to do sometimes in an NFL locker room, and when you're dealing with 53 or more of a practice squad. But that's something that's important to him. And I wonder where the crossover is. We're always looking for metaphors when we sit here 3 hours a day and talk sports. And sometimes when we start talking about teamwork and support, and it could veer into other aspects of people talk about music and giving people room. And you talk about yes, and there is some support to that of what people want to do. Have you talked to people in and around soccer, football, who have mentioned where some of these crossovers are? And you are a sports fan as well. What stands out to you about what these various processes have in common?
Well, the one that I come back to a lot is that, as I say, there's a lot of improv people in that writer's room, and we write the show in a very improv-based kind of process. And soccer is the most improvisational sport. Obviously, American football is the most regimented, the most rehearsed. Everybody line up, take your marks, 1, 2, 3, go. And in soccer, it's all flow. You just have to have good habits. You have to have systems in place. You have to have trust of where your teammates are going to be and where they're supposed to be, and that they're actually will be there for this kind of situation. But then also, in music, because improv, we talk about improv being like jazz a lot. There's room for essentially solos, moments of individual brilliance. And I kind of love that about. I like soccer for a lot of reasons, but I especially like we talk about it in season 1 where Ted says, I can't really do much coaching. All I have to do during a game is trust that they all know, that I've given them the right tools to do what they got to do. And so I love that, improv to soccer connection. In Chicago, especially Improv Olympic with Del Close back in the day, they talked about improv and jazz a lot. But also, I don't think Del Close saw a soccer game his entire life. So I think the improv to soccer metaphor is perhaps, underattended.
Well, I know you're an Illinois State Redbird. You got to enjoy the Cubs game the other night. The reason we were able to get you on is because you have a lot of friends and family who listen to the show, so we thank them. Are you still keeping up with Chicago sports at all? Because if so, this is your time to vent. I just need you to know that.
I had that nice interview with Taylor at the game the other day, and no need to watch that online, folks, because I'm clearly overserved by that point. But the one joke I wish I'd done as I left various answers is hanging there, was gone, just looked around and be like, "Hey, I've been out of town for a while. Where's Javi?"
Oh, no.
That would have been
I remember him.
savage.
He's great fun.
That would have been great.
Good luck in the rebuild, Cubs. That's I guess it's something you got to do. I don't know. There's not that much to vent about. Here's the thing. I did the 7th inning stretch, but also the White Sox were out of town. I'm a North Side child with South Side parents. My mom is from Beverly. When I was born, we lived in Rogers Park. I went to high school in Hyde Park. I'm one of these people who likes the Cubs and the Sox. That's just how it is. So I'm delighted with what's going on with the Sox right now. And gosh, last year, the Cubs and Sox both made the playoffs. Anytime that happens, which has only happened twice in my life, it's fraught with terror for me. Absolutely fraught. The notion that they'll play in the World Series, it would be the worst October of my life, and I really, really need that to never actually happen.
The best, worst October.
Yep. Well, Brendan, this was a delight, and we appreciate you taking the time to do this, especially on short sleep. But this was a whole lot of fun. Thanks for doing it.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for making people happy. We appreciate that too. It's a wonderful show.
That is Brendan Hunt of Ted Lasso, Chicago native, and just a terrific dude. That was great.